Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I apologize to the Department of Justice for not being worthy to sit at the same table, but I'll get over it. I will say, though, I do want to commend our federal partners. In fact, we work seamlessly with the brave men and women of the Border Patrol, Office of Field Operations, ICE, FBI, ATF. We love our federal partners. They work with us every day. I will say that border unsecurity is not something recent. This is a 30-year underinvestment by the federal government, and there's consequences when you don't secure a border. In fact, some of the consequences, for example, is you have the proliferation of organized crime cartels. I say organized crime because they're no longer involved in drugs. They're involved in kidnappings, extortions, murders. They butchered 36,000 Mexican nationals and some American citizens on the other side of the border. So I think that there's no question the depravity, there's no question the impact, and they threaten domestic security of the government of Mexico. And as noted by this distinguished committee, is that they're our third leading trading partner, our third leading exporter of oil to our nation. And culturally, we've always been very close to Mexico, and they're very important to us. So their security is our security. And yet, when we have an unsecure border, we've enabled the cartels to expand, become powerful and ruthless, and use the billions of dollars to undermine the government of Mexico. And not only is an unsecure border impacted Mexico, but clearly you can talk about spillover violence and spillover this, spillover that, or pour over crime or flow over crime. Bottom line is that without question, as a result of an unsecure border, there's been a proliferation of organized crime in Texas. Not just Texas, but I think you'll find from talking to the Attorney General, the other border states as well. And that doesn't just affect the border region of Texas or Texas itself, it affects the entire nation. And there are consequences, because when I talk about organized crime activity, it doesn't show up on a UCR report, it doesn't show up as an index crime, it doesn't count kidnappings, extortions, it doesn't count the recruitment of our children in high school, in schools, to conduct operations to support cartel members, not just counter-surveillance, but to conduct, murders, assassinations, hits on both sides of the border. It doesn't count that. And clearly, if the numbers I submitted in my written testimony are accurate. 18.9% referral rate for drug felonies when we have 9.4% of the population in our border region. It doesn't count the corruption of our U.S. law enforcement officials. That's the business model for the Mexican cartels. Corruption is king. It didn't stop at the Rio Grande River. They utilize it at our ports of entry, between the ports of entry. We had 2 sheriffs go down. We have 80 Border Patrol agents knocked off for corruption as a result of federal corruption investigations, and hundreds more under investigation because they've got billions of dollars. So there's an insidious aspect of it that isn't reflected on index crimes that go back to 2009. And you've got to be careful, as I was talking to the chief over here, about index crimes. They're always, 2 years late, year and a half late. And, as in talking with our latest update from El Paso, there's a 1,200% increase in murders in El Paso. Now, does that mean something dramatically happened? No, it just means that some things have happened, and it shows up dramatically on that report. But make no mistake about it, as we're not happy with the fact that our border is secure, because we know it can be secure if the federal government commits sufficient resources to do it. This is not rocket science. If you put sufficient men, equipment, and apply training, boats, aircraft, aviation, Congressman, you talked about technology, you can do this. This is doable. And there's no question the federal government can do this. And when it's not done, there's consequences. I haven't talked to a counterterrorism expert, Mr. Chairman, you've dealt in this before, that isn't mortified every time they look at the numbers of foreign nationals from countries with a known al-Qaeda presence or Hezbollah or Hamas that cross the border, the Texas-Mexico border, that are detected and arrested. And we talk about performance measures and how do you view success. Hey, it's great to have indictments, convictions, arrests, seizures goes up. Hey, our seizures up 124% in marijuana, 168% in cash. All that proves is that the border is not secure. At the end of the day, the only performance measure that matters is that the border is secure, plain and simple. And that's not difficult to define. It means if, from a Texas standpoint or a lowly state standpoint, I'll try to throw something together here. But that means when individuals in contraband, cross the border either direction and illegally, and are not first detected and secondly, interdict it, plain and simple. It's not hard to do, because as one of the congressmen had mentioned earlier, is that they don't do it for ideological reasons. They do it for profit. Although I will say, to your point, Chairman, I was thinking about it when you were talking about the international terrorists and using a designation, is that it's interesting to observe that, international terrorists engage in organized crime to support their terrorist activities, whereas the Mexican cartels are now engaging in terrorist activities to support their criminal enterprises and organized crime activities. And the barbarism, Al-Qaeda has nothing on these Mexican cartels. And when we see, 4 of our gangs that are operating directly with the cartels and supporting their hit squads, and oh, by the way, there are hit squad members of the cartels living in Texas, when we see that, we're obviously concerned. And when they expand in the past year from 4 to 18, when they grow threefold, it's a dramatic increase, and we're very concerned. And lastly, I'll say, like, for example, last night, and I did say Texas is a law and order state, did I not? I'll make that clear. Right? We don't like people trespassing and vandalizing and breaking into homes on our farms just because they happen to be on the border. And we take offense to that. And we take another offense to it, like last night, 11:50 p.m. Central Time, which is the time that matters. We had 2 Border Patrol agents fired upon when all they tried to do, they're on the river, the Marine Border Patrol agents trying to interdict drug traffickers coming on boats. And when they did, we had an individual. 3 shots were fired. They looked up, someone pointed a gun at them, and they returned fire. On September 10th and 11th, I mean, you ought to be concerned. Border Patrol agents were fired upon, same scenario in the river, Rio Grande River. And this would be in Hidalgo County. So to say that there's not violence or concern, or that we haven't had 58 high-speed chases, and oh, by the way, the cartels are throwing out spikes using chase vehicles and blocking vehicles to thwart law enforcement operations, to get these splashdowns, and then we've got retrieval teams of cartels on our side of the river to take the dope and the subject back over and confront us. That's unacceptable by Texas standards, and I think that's unacceptable by American standards as well. Thank you.